Hello, and welcome to the Nostalgia Podcast.
A podcast where we discuss the retelling or continuation of pop culture favorites as seen through a queer and feminist lens.
My name is Eric Lefebvre.
And I am Jessica Terzero.
And this week, we are looking at...
A Star is Born!
Star is Born, yeah. But we did realize that right before we were doing it, that there are 4. We thought there were 3. So we decided to only do 2.
I can't believe that this fucking story was four times. And each time it was nominated for fucking Oscars and shit like that. Every fucking time, because Hollywood loves this story and I think it's trash.
Yeah. Hollywood loves the idea of stardom and celebrity and the rising of a young star.
Because they see themselves in it.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Representation and all that stuff.
It's like representation matters.
Oh my God.
What? This is new information to me.
Wow.
Yeah, so we looked at the Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson 1976 version, as well as the most recent Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, A Star is Born. A Stars Are Born.
Stars Are Born.
Yeah. How are stars born? How are stars born? I did not do well on astrology. Oh, astronomy! No! Why did I do that? I didn't do well in either, apparently.
I didn't either. I wish that I could be like, oh, well, actually, no. Yeah. That wasn't my shit.
Me neither. I just did it for the GE so I could be done. But anyways, what do we have to say before just jumping into it?
Oh my God. I still can't fucking get over the fact that this has been remade so many times.
I know.
I guess the first one was not a musical. I think it was the 30s or something.
Yeah, I think.
And then there was the Judy Garland one, and when they turned it into a musical, and then Barbra Streisand decided that because she's the executive producer on that film.
Oh, okay.
So she decided that she had to make this film, and then it was Bradley Cooper that was like, this is my story.
I'm Jackson Maine.
Oh my God. But I wonder, and there's a lot to say about these films, but I wonder how much of these stars wanting to make this was because they felt some sort of connection or because they saw themselves in this or whatever. We'll get into it, but man, there's so much to say.
Yeah. I do think that the fact that it's been retold so many times is because they see themselves in it. And also, for Hollywood, it's kind of a timeless story. For Hollywood. Obviously, it's not like I'm vouching for the story itself. But in a Hollywood sense that, stars come and go. And, it will still resonate as long as there is celebrity.
I think so. But I think more than that, it will stay because they want people, normal-ass people, to think that they have a shot. Or to think that they can make it.
Yeah.
And I have kind of a lot of problems with that.
It's like the lottery.
With that sort of narrative. Yeah. It's you're going to be discovered seeing it at a gas station or something, which I think was Toni Braxton. That's how she was discovered or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think that sometimes these kinds of narratives are more harmful just because, it takes a lot of fucking hard work to get anywhere.
Oh, the idea of instant success as a means of, false hope?
Yeah. And, especially, in both of these, the woman was able to skip step 1 through 600 because she had a famous boyfriend.
Yeah.
What is that perpetuating and what is that trying to say? Overall,
nepotism works.
Yeah.
Not really nepotism, but some kind of hierarchical favoritism, I guess. I don't know.
It's all about who you know is what it's saying. That is kind of true.
Yeah.
But it sucks.
Yeah. And we're both musicians, so I feel like this is going to be good.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Cool. Okay, let's start it. Woo!
A Star is Born, 1976. John Norman, a famous violent rock star asshole, finds his career drying up due to addiction and self-obsession. One night after a concert, he stumbles into a bar where local talent The Oreos are performing. After causing a scene and getting the bar shut down for the night, John Norman corrals the lead singer Esther Hoffman into his car, and after a series of subsequent predatory behaviors and sexual harassment, she agrees to go to his show.
A love story happens and now they're married? John helps Esther become famous, but overcome by jealousy, he drives further into his addiction and self-sabotage. A bunch of shit happens. Then he drives his car into the rising sun at 160 miles an hour, Listening to his wife's single on the radio and a beer in hand, unable to handle the weight of his wife's fame, he intentionally crashes his car, killing himself. Esther sings a song. The end. The end. Yeah. So, okay. I just want to, off the top, first thing I want to say, men need to keep their fucking hands to themselves.
Uh-huh.
That's like, so just first thing from this fucking movie. Men need to stop fucking touching women when they're not, like, just keep your hands to yourself. Stop. You can use your words, use your speech, talk, ask questions, say things. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep them to yourself.
Well, and a lot of the time too, it was like really patronizing the way they were, like, it wasn't even necessarily like sexual, even though there was some, like, there was a lot of that too, but like, it was like, oh, sweetie, you're gonna go over here. And so it was like, you know, kind of like the power dynamic thing. And it was really gross and uncomfortable. And like, you can even see Esther, Barbara Streisand's character, at like one point, she's just kind of like super uncomfortable with it. But like, other than that, it's not really questioned or it's not anything. I have a really fucking big problem with the way that this film reinforces harmful stereotypes about men and women and how men can't talk about their feelings and women want men to fight them and all this other stuff. And so it's normalizing violence and blatant disregard for holding men accountable for their actions.
Yes.
And even like questioning their actions. And it's just super patronizing and it's extremely frustrating. And it's even more frustrating because Barbara Streisand wanted this fucking movie to be made. Why did you want it to be made like this? There's certain scenes where she apparently kicked the director out of the room because she's like, no, this is how this is going to go. So she had so much control over this, but then looking at this, it was just like, what the fuck even?
You're reiterating this idea of male ownership of women. You're continuing this trope of men shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. Women are combative.
And they want to be.
And they want to fight. I want somebody who can fight. Esther
leaves her husband because he wouldn't fight her. What is that saying? That's saying that she wants violence or that she wants to be yelled at or she wants, it's not even about passion. It's not even framed in the sense of like, he didn't have passion. It's he wouldn't fight me.
Yeah.
And then she like, berates John Norman at some point and she's just like, fight me. When he's like really down on himself and she's just like, you won't even fucking fight me? Like you don't care about me enough to fight me? It's fight me, not fight for me.
The first time when she says she left her husband because he wouldn't fight her, I think there's an inclination to assume that it's like verbalize or like vocal fighting, like argue. She wants to argue. And it's like this perpetuating this idea of like, let's not have a conversation. Let's just fucking yell at each other, which is like, Queen, stop. Like, chill. But then when she's like, why wouldn't you fight me the next time? It's when she catches him cheating with the reporter. And then they're in the ballroom and she's like, fuck you. You fucking suck. Like, I hate you so much. And then he just like, is like holding her, like she's pushing him and he's not doing anything. She's like, why aren't you fucking fighting me? And that's where I'm like, oh, you're looking for violence. You want to hit him and you want him to hit you? What? Why was this the choice for Esther? Why does she want that? Why?
She wants to be treated like shit emotionally and physically. And I have a huge problem with that. Because there were so many points where, like, John Norman, why the fuck are you with John Norman? And why, like, every single time she can only say John Norman. She can't just say fucking John. I'm like, why are you with this dude? You saw him beat, like, your introduction was, like, him getting in a fucking fist fight, like, and ruining your show. At so many points, like, he is so violent. And then that line, I just keep going back to that line, and I'm like, this is what she wants. This is what this character wants. She wants a violent man because she's mistaking that for passion or for like some, like, and that's reading way too much into this because it was not, it was just so fucking surface level and I fucking hate it.
Same. Because honestly, at least if they had some sort of scene that had something to do with how her parents fought, and it's sort of like this inherited idea of what love is and the sort of cyclical abuse and like that kind of thing where she's like, I'm trying to overcome this thing. I would have been like, hell yeah. That look, there's a theme about inherited trauma. There's a conversation about abusers and there's a conversation about abuse. Like, yeah, cool. We had that scene, but no, that never happens. There's never anything. There's not even a conversation that implies anything other than the fact that she's like, hit me. Or fight me, or attack me, or yell at me. It's like, Why? What do you
like,
mean?
What the fuck are you saying?
What are you saying?
Like, and that's kind of like this entire movie was just like, there was so many points where it was like, wait, what are you saying? Both figuratively and literally, because the sound on this film was so fucking bad.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell what was being said at any given point, like for the first half of the film, right? And like, I'm so glad I had the captions on, right? It was just especially bad. I had to like pause and like think and like, wait, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And then like the songs were terrible. It just, and also John Norman can't fucking sing. That was the most, like, anytime he was doing anything, it was so fucking atrocious that I just wanted it to be done, but they had to go through the whole fucking song.
Drag Chris Christopherson.
And then what are they saying about like addiction and depression and mental health and all of this? It's just, it felt like there was no fucking direction and they didn't know what they were trying to do or what they wanted to, like, it was just the biggest fucking mess.
It was a movie that wanted to talk about so many things, but ended up talking about nothing.
Truly.
Like, they're opening the door to all these conversations, but they're never actually walking into the room. They're like, and here we have our room of this, and let's keep walking down the hallway, and now here's this. But there's like, they're not talking about it. They're just showing it like, this is an idea, this thing exists. Okay, what do you have to say about it? Oh, what do you mean?
But while doing that, they decide that they're going to not dive into those things that are there that they can, like you said, right? But instead, let's cut to where he's on a fucking motorcycle and like gets himself in the hospital like 4 fucking times. And let's have him just shoot a fucking gun at a helicopter. Yeah. Like, those are the things that they choose to show because they want us to be sure that he is a violent man. And we know that this is what Esther wants. And I was just like, this is what you show. This is what you decide to, like, oh my God.
So it's the idea that she wants like a bad boy, but the only thing that's bad about him is that he's bad at communicating his feelings. Oh that's God. The only thing that's bad. Everything else is just immaturity ad nauseum. It's just like this constant reiterative. He doesn't know how to process feelings. He doesn't know how to process external pressure, structure, anything. The only thing he knows how to do is react. He's very reactionary, and that reaction is violent. So like that helicopter is there. Instead of just being like, fucking leave or go inside or go somewhere else, he pulls out a gun and starts shooting at the helicopter. Where it's just some news broadcaster, which I get is like an invasion of privacy, but like, fuck off. You're gonna kill somebody over this? Like, calm down. And then the whole motorcycle bullshit where he's like, that second concert, the first time Esther shows up, he like, second song in, just goes to the back because he's like, I want you to come on stage. She's like, fuck you. I'm not going on stage with you. What am I gonna do? No, I'm not gonna sing. He's like, whatever. And then some guy's like, hey, my motorcycle. He's like, I can have it. He's like, you can have it. And then he rides it on stage.
After kissing him on the mouth.
Oh, yeah. Which I'm like, Queen.
I was like,
we love
sure?
it. Yeah, go for it, guys.
I like, I made a note about that.
Right. So then he like drives it on stage and everyone's like, what the fuck? And then he crashes it into a bunch of full stacks and the concert's over. Like 2 songs in, the concert's over. He rode the motorcycle in. And it's like, he is so reactive and reactionary. Nothing in his world matters, even though he claims to care about everything and care about her the most, right? He cares about all this stuff. He's so bad at communicating his feelings that his world essentially falls apart. And then his fame declines and he gets mad about it.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is because there's never a point where he's questioned or where he has to fess up for what he's done. So we know that he treats the people that are close to him like shit, right? Yes. And the people that are the closest to him like dog shit, right? But like, look at what he does to his fans. All of his interactions with them are like making them wait 2 hours to watch him perform 2 songs so he can, it's like a Brian's Jonestown Massacre thing, right? What's Anton gonna do? And people are pissed, but they still come out and they're still stoked on this and everything. And it's like, he's just so mad. And I don't understand why. And then like the people that he surrounds himself with, right? Like, they're all very yes and they never are like maybe one person I think was like, you're fucking up, right? Yeah. But then that same person, specifically the one that like was giving him all the drugs with like the shag haircut and whatever, but
Gary Busey?
Yeah.
Gary Busey, yeah. Gary fucking Busey.
We both know that I don't know actors' names. It's a thing.
So, but if you haven't seen this movie, it's Gary Busey.
It's Gary Busey, yeah. Anyways, so this same dude that's like complaining that he's not sober is the same dude that's giving him cocaine before he goes on stage. You know? So it's like everybody wants to say that he's not doing well or whatever, but they are also enabling the behavior and not actually like holding him accountable for everything or anything at all.
Which I think leads to the conversation about like
even his cab driver or like he's just like, oh, do you want to like oh well, I think the night is young, I'm gonna take you to a bar, like even
and then even Gary Busey, the one who's giving him cocaine, is like, you should go to bed, you need some sleep, and he's like, nah, you should come with me. And he's like, okay. And you're like, what? Yeah. So I think that like part of that whole conversation was like the visual idea that celebrities or stars are not people, they are products to be sold. So it's like his manager or whatever wants him to give the best performance. He's like, hey, do a bump real quick to go out there. So you're like energetic, you're tired, like here's some energy, go out there and perform. Like, so that I think that this movie thought it was so, because again, it's a movie by Hollywood for Hollywood that celebrates this idea of celebrity. So I think they thought that a conversation about how the machine of Hollywood, the machine of show business, is so toxic towards famous people, and they were like, "Can you believe that? Like, no wonder people have problems like this." Like, I think it was trying to tell this very shallow idea that like kind of woe is me, my life is so hard, look at all these people who treat me poorly, and like my life is kind of a mess. Like, have pity for celebrity because it's hard.
I didn't necessarily get that same vibe because the only person that's suffering in this whole film is just him. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, the only reason that Esther ends up suffering is because of him. And the band, like, moves on and, like, is now instead of whatever, their Speedway or whatever, right? Yeah. You know, like, but everybody else is thriving in this. Nobody else is, and they're all looking at him like, what a fucking joke. So I'm not sure that that's what they're trying to say, or maybe like they're trying to say like because he's not relevant anymore. Maybe that's where that's in. So maybe that's like it's hard when you're not as popular anymore, or something like that.
So that's kind of where I was getting at the idea of like you're useful until you're not. Right. So this system uses you until you're useless, like till we no longer have a need for you. You no longer make us money. Therefore, you're irrelevant. And like the sort of psychosis of like the jealousy that entails from seeing other people have what you had, or the struggle with addiction that came with performing, where people would give you these things and you're now like, that's what you need to perform and what you need to live. Not to give them any credit in that regard, but part of me feels like that might have been the story they were trying to tell.
Was super subtext. But sure, this movie needs something because there was fucking
what else
nothing.
Are they talking about? What else is that? Like, so I'm really trying to dig at something here because that to me, even that story, I don't give a shit about. Like, cool, great. Everyone's got shit. Everyone's got struggles.
It's hard to be famous and then to not be famous.
It's hard to be rich. It's hard to be famous. It's hard to have everything. Shut up. I don't care. But part of me thinks because it's like a movie for celebrities, it's a movie about celebrities for celebrities, that's the story they're trying to tell. Like, look how hard it is for us. And then the other people who see that, they're like, wow, it is hard for us, isn't it? Like, that's...
Well, and clearly, like, that's why they wanted to remake this movie so many times, right?
Yeah.
And it'll probably be a fifth and a sixth. Like, every 20 years, they're going to remake this movie. I'm calling it right fucking now.
Yeah.
But, like, it's because, like, they see themselves and their struggle in that.
Yes.
You know, so I think it would have been really interesting to see the other two. Maybe one day we'll do it. I don't know. But, like, just from what we got in this one and the next one, I was just like, this is for you. And that's great. But, like, what the fuck?
It's a very D-rate celebration of stardom, of fame.
Yeah.
The story really didn't say anything else except from that. Nothing ever paid off. Nothing happened. Nothing happened to this movie.
Nothing happened. Our lives weren't enriched.
No.
And don't watch this movie.
So, yeah.
I want to talk about, since we're on the subject of Jackson. Wait, no, sorry. That's the next one. This isn't Jackson Maine. What's his name? John Norman. Sorry.
John Norman.
God, I don't know why the fuck they changed the names. But I want to talk a little bit about how he hits on Esther and how fucking disgusting it is.
Oh, let's just go over how shitty every man in this film is.
Okay. So he insults her by saying she talks a lot when she, like, anytime she tries to get real with him, right? And, like, ask him, they have that opportunity to get more into it, right? And then, like, he shuts down just like any other man, right? And then, like any other dude, he, like, compares her voice to fishing. Because that's how you hit on a woman by whatever. But, like, some of the ways that he talks to her or compliments her are, I like your eyes, you got a pretty mouth, you got a great ass, you live alone, close up on her ass, right? Are you married? Like, I love that you have a last name because every other girl I've known for the past year hasn't. Like, I'm sorry, he literally used the line, you got a pretty mouth. When he, like, first met her and was walking her, like, this is their first interaction after the bar, after she's corralled into his fucking car, right? He follows her up the stairs, like, basically saying, like, I want to fuck. Like, right now, like, he uses those words, and she's like, no, I don't think so, thanks, shuts the door, and then he's like, cool, I'll be back in the morning, you know, she's like, fine, I'll make breakfast, whatever, just get the fuck away, because she clearly does not want this. He comes back the next morning with pizza, and I had a real big problem with that, because it was just like, I knew you weren't gonna cook. Like, I'm sorry, like, so she clearly doesn't want you here. You're, like, pushing all the, and then he's like, I have the biggest problem because he's rewarded with all this, right? So he gets her, right? And so, okay, she's happy now and she's a wife and all this other stuff, right? Then he pushes her to, like, he finishes one of her songs. He pushes her to record. He pushes her to perform. He pushes her to do this. And the only reason like, Esther, who are one of her first songs, like her first introduction, we see her, it's a song where she's singing about how she wants everything. She wants to learn all of the languages and she wants to do all of the things and learn how to do all this stuff. And she wants, like, this really empowering song about, like, her ambition, right?
Yeah.
The only reason she's able to get anything is because of him, right? Because he, like, gives her all of this stuff and because he pushes her. She doesn't get there on her own.
Yeah.
Because her whole world then becomes him and she's wrapped up in him to where she's like, you're everything. You're all of this. You're all this. And her ambition is just gone because it's now all of a sudden her ambition is making sure that he's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's
and
also
his ego's intact.
If we look at exactly where this started, how they meet at the club, he shows up, ruins her performance. Just a fight breaks out because he's talking the whole time, arguing that he wants to bring his bottle in. They're like, we have a soft liquor license. You can't have.
He was an asshole to that server.
He was. He's like, they're like, you can't have that here. I can get you tea, beer, or wine. And he's like, no, I want this. Fuck you. Do you know who I am? No, I'm keeping this. Like, causing a scene, and she notices it. Whatever. A fight breaks out. Show's over. Cool. So he's ruined the performance for her. For whatever reason, she decides to go up to him and is like, hey, I can sneak you out the back so you don't have to deal with this. Like, you ruined my night. Let me help you now. He could give less of a shit. And then they get to the car and he's like, here, get in my car. And she's like, what? He's like, get in. She's like, okay. And that's when he's like, oh, you're pretty. I didn't see you inside, but now I see you. Do you want to fuck? And then they get to the house and then he says all that stuff. And then he says that thing the next morning. And then she's kind of arguing that she's like, quote unquote, not like other girls, or she's like self-empowered and self-fulfilled and like nothing, like she's going to get what she wants because she's strong enough. Why is she inviting this absolute piece of trash person and allowing him to be this? Like, dude, shut the fucking door. Like, hey, thanks for the ride. I'm home.
It was because of that one throwaway line, which is what this whole fucking movie comes down to, is that he wouldn't fight me.
Yeah, I want somebody who will fight. And
that is the whole reason.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
It's
and
so
I have
bad.
such a big problem with it. Again, because like she was so ambitious and everything. And then just to see her get everything because like, yes, he gives it to her. But like, not only does he's not like, here's this opportunity. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And then takes it. Like she has to be pushed out of her comfort zone every time. Like he like almost like physically fucking pushes her on stage and like pushes her to perform and pushes her to do all this stuff. And like she never does it on her own terms or in her own time.
No.
And I really hate that. I don't know, like they didn't know what they were fucking doing with her character. And it was just so fucking jarring.
Yeah. And then there was also just no accountability on her end, the accountability of that sort of self-sufficient, she was like, I'm waiting for him to say yes so I can get this next thing or do this next thing. Like, I need his permission to do anything, like you were saying. But then subsequently, the treatment of women in general, like not only just the touching, but like when Gary Busey, his producer, like they're in the studio, he says a throwaway line about like, your music has gone downhill and now you're recording a chick.
Oh yeah.
Ugh, like,
oh yeah.
What a thing. And so all that shit kind of gets thrown away. And then even later when like he's being such an asshole and she's mad, he says, it was like after he cheated on her, I tried to tell you it's no good with me. Cool. Again, so you suck and you're an absolute piece of shit. I tried to tell you it's your fault. It's your fault I'm bad. You should have known that I was trouble.
Yeah.
You should have known that I wasn't good. Why did you say yes to me in the first place? You did this, not me. I'm out. And you're like, go fuck yourself. Are you fucking kidding me?
And when he's caught cheating, right, with this reporter hippie girl that's in the pool that broke into their house and is like, hey, like, can I get an interview? Like, with your wife? I'll give you anything.
I'll literally fuck you if you give me an interview with your wife.
And then she's like, I'm really good. Like, you can call this person and ask if I'm good. Right? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then like they're in bed and Esther walks in, sees them in bed, and he's like just nonchalantly like, hey, she wants an interview.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's not even remorseful for what he did or anything. And then like the girl is like supposed to be like super trashed, I think, like stoned or whatever. And she's just like, oh hey, like, here, I have a question. She pulls out her recorder and like Esther runs out of the room and she like looks at him and she's just like, she didn't answer my question. So another big problem I have with both of these movies, there is never another female like on screen that is the friend that is anything. In this whole movie, it is just Esther, and then the other woman is like there's like some groupies or whatever, like some background characters, but like the other woman is this groupie that's boning her husband, right? And then in the next one too, it's the same thing. There's no other women. It is like, you know, the film is supposed to be, this is another film that is supposed to be about the woman and about whatever, but it's about the fucking dude. Like, just like Romeo and Juliet, I have so many notes on Romeo over here, and Juliet just can't, she's just thinking.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Ugh. So frustrating.
This movie sucks. And it's really bad. It doesn't know what it wants to say. I don't care.
So here's a fun idea. Barbara Streisand originally wanted Elvis to play that role real fucking bad. Like, she went to him and was like, hey, I want you for this, blah, 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 blah. Elvis was all fucking for it. And then his manager was like pissed off that she didn't go to him first. And so he like sabotaged the whole thing or whatever. And Elvis didn't end up doing it. But how different would this have been if this was Elvis? Like, I think it would have been more comedic because Elvis is such a caricature.
That would have been bizarre. That would have been very weird.
Well, and then there was like going down the list of like fun facts and everything. There's so many that's like, this person was considered for the role and this person was considered and this person. And it's the same thing for the next iteration for the 2018. It's like Johnny Depp was considered and this person was considered and this person and this person and this person and this person. And it's like, it feels like, I think Neil Diamond was also considered for this. Like, but like, all of these people, again, Hollywood loves to see themselves in these fucking movies. Yeah. And so, of course, they're on board for that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, it's just like, I am so tired of this. And it was also so successful. It was the second highest grossing film in that fucking year. Everybody and their mother went to go see this fucking movie.
I fully believe that, because I do think, I mean, obviously I believe it. It's like a fact. But I believe that fact. I believe it. No, but it tracks just in the sense that we love celebrity. And if we're going to have a conversation about the idea of instant stardom as sort of a fallacy or as a dangling treat for those who want success and want fame, and how it can, quote unquote, happen in an instant for somebody, people love that shit. It's why we all play the lottery. It's why we all a lot of people play the lottery. It's why a lot of people wish and hope for that. I mean, Like, as a musician, for a long time, I thought that one day the right person's going to see me in the right way and say, "You're it, kid. Let's go." And I'll be like, "Hell yeah. My day happened and here it is. I'm about to be successful and boom, I'm worth it."
I had the same exact thought.
And it's because of shit like this. It's the instantaneous fame, like discovery. You're discovered. You're going to be discovered. People will discover you. You'll be discovered. The word discovery as this means of false hope. This means of one day. This means of try, because you'll never know who's out there watching. And, you know, sometimes that lucky shit happens. Sometimes the right person's in the right place at the right time, seeing the right people, and good on you.
And other times you could be working at it for like 20 fucking years. And
it'll never come.
And like, you know, you'll still have the same people come to your show or whatever. But like, it really is time and place, and it's all fucking luck and all of that. And so like for people that have been playing music for a long time and all of this and been in all these bands and been touring and doing all the stuff, like it's things like this type of media that I think are really skewing my perception of success and what success is. Yeah. And, like, rather than being proud of the fact that I put out an album, or rather than being proud of what I've done, or, you know, like opening for this band that I opened for, doing, like, getting these opportunities, right? Like, rather than being proud of that, it's like, okay, cool. When am I going to make it? Or like, what's the next level of success? Or like, when does this become profitable? Because like any kind of hobby like this, like is really expensive.
Oh yeah. 100%.
You know, and it's like not only like monetarily expensive, it's also time wise, you know, like you give up a lot.
It's also emotionally expensive.
Oh my God. I just recently like burnt out super fucking hard. Like I hit that wall so fucking hard. And, you know, it's like caused me to rethink a lot of stuff. And I think I had like a skewed perception of a lot of this stuff because of this type of media. So like watching this, I was just like, fuck this story. Yeah. Fuck everything about this, because we all know that 1 in a million that can happen. But like, why can't we tell a story about like maybe like what's another version of success rather than making it to like Lady Gaga level? Yeah. Right? What's another version of success, and how can you feel fulfilled in that? I want to see somebody be fulfilled by that, or turn something down, or I want more of those stories and less of these stories.
But yes, I want to see that 100% that, but none of that is as romantic as this. And it's romanticizing this idea, this false idea that this could happen and regularly does happen. And the romance of it is exciting. It's fantasy. It's like that. Again, not to excuse it and not to say that we need this, because we don't. And again, the story sucks. But I think generally we need to stop romanticizing these ideas as facts and seeing it as possibilities apart from what it just is generally, which is fantasy and oftentimes a scarcity. Like, it doesn't happen often. It really doesn't.
Seeing it for the fairy tale that it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For the fairy tale that it is. And then, which kind of goes into that sort of self-congratulatory celebrity of it all, where like these people have made it and they've done this, and by stroke of luck or by hard work or some combination of the two, they're there. And they want to see within themselves, man, that was just like me. Look at that. I'm seeing my life echoed back at me in a way that most media doesn't, because a lot of it doesn't talk about famous people's stories. It talks about the romanticizing of broken love or romanticizing some sort of struggle, right? It's, yeah, I don't know. It's this type of...
I think my problem with this is that it's, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but in the same way that like, I think a lot of like romance film, like chick flicks or whatever, right? Like, or even like princess stories and all this other stuff, it perpetuates an unrealistic idea of love.
Yes.
That I think is more harmful than it is helpful.
Yes.
And because it's like, if you can't deal with me at this, then you don't deserve me at my best or whatever, right? Like these gross ideals that are like framing themselves as female empowerment. But like, really, it's like, no matter what a relationship is about, when you get to the core of it, it's like about acceptance and about growth and about like compatibility and about all this other stuff. And it's not always roses, and it's all like, you know, but like just the romanticization of shit like this is just, for me, so tired.
It's hella tired. It's also unrealistic, and it also makes for oftentimes bad stories or unrealistic stories. And because a lot of people, and like, this isn't like I'm critical of media, so I know this. It's none of that. It's a lot of people don't necessarily digest a lot of media and like cinema and television shows where they have these romanticized versions of what love, quote unquote, is, or what relationships are and all that. because without that critical eye, if you're just digesting it for what it is, it becomes this sort of reiterative idea that that's how I should live. That's how I should love. That's how I should exist. I should wait to be discovered. I should fight with my partner all the time because that's what love is. If we're not fighting, we're not in love. Or I should do this because that's it.
It's the normalization of the ideal and the behavior.
Exactly. And it's a normalization of extremes within it, right? For cinema, for drama, because we're all dramatic, for drama, right? Like it's this hyper sensationalized version of what the nuances of reality are. And by seeing that, I think that consumption of it teaches people that that's what is reality when it's not, in fact. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just that, which is the problem. And I think this movie just exemplifies that in so many areas, in so many ways.
I think what it does is it distorts people's perception of reality and again, expectations and, hello, we both did that, right?
Right. Yeah.
What is it going to be like to be a musician and all this other stuff. But I think just the normalization of these types of things and this measure of success and this is what's going to happen and all of that. I think that again, it's more harmful. And I think we're getting to a point to where we're able to kind of see through that and to talk about what success is and what it is to each of us. And we're able to maybe nuance that a little bit rather than just, have this idea of oh, cool. So this is what success is and what it looks like. But this movie's garbage.
It's tired. It's hella tired.
I want to talk about, first of all, I really do want to acknowledge the fact that Barbra Streisand or Esther, her group was called the Oreos. And it was called the Oreos because there was two black women that were singing with her and she was the main singer.
She was the center.
Yeah. And I really hated that.
So that kind of shit, why is that necessary? Just like a fun little race joke? What? So it's not adding anything. Why is it here? Apart from just acknowledging that there are people of color here.
Yeah, and it wasn't even I don't even think they had any lines other than singing. So it wasn't like they were actual characters. They were background.
They were props.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And I hated that.
Yeah. Yep.
So I needed to mention that. I also wanted to talk about one thing that I think the movie unintentionally did well. That, is kind of more of a conversation right now. I know, it's the one thing that
you guys did this right. I don't think you meant it.
But I think it's also nowadays and the internet culture and stuff like that, it takes on a whole new meaning or we're exploring or understand it a little bit more is toxic fandom. So let's go back to the scene where the main guy is ruining the Oreo
Esther's
show.
Performance. Yes. Yeah. And the guy comes up for the photo.
And clearly this dude is jealous because his girlfriend thinks that he's hot or loves what he does and all this, right?
And so he wants to confront that with violence or with aggression to prove himself. Chest puffed, hey, my girlfriend loves you. Go up there and sing a song. Without her buying your records, you would be nothing. She supported you. She's the reason.
She fucking bought your clothes that you're wearing right now.
Yeah, she afforded you these things.
She owns you is what he was saying. Yeah. And so because she owns you and because she supports you, you are going to do what she says or what I say because that's my money or whatever the fuck was his thing.
Get on stage and sing a song.
Yeah, it was I own you. And I thought that was really interesting. And then there's another part. Again, he gets the motorcycle, right? From the fan, his fan kisses him on the mouth and he's like, yeah, you can take my bike. You can have it. Whatever.
Yeah, it's yours.
Right?
Yeah.
It's yours. It's chill. And he takes the bike and he goes out on stage and he's doing donuts on stage. And I just saw all the chords and I was like, oh my God, this is going to end so fucking bad.
Yeah.
And then he falls off stage and his response to why the fuck did you do that? Is he's I'm giving them what they want. To that end, he's trying to excuse his behavior for how he acts and the things that he does and all of these extremes that he, perpetuates throughout the movie because it's what the fans want and that's what he gives them.
Yeah. Again, not taking ownership of his own actions. It's your fault that I'm this way. It's not my fault. It's your fault.
Well, but he only does it when it's convenient for him, if you notice. That's another way that he's using in order to escape blame and all that other stuff, like you said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's trash. I hate him so much. I hate that mentality. I don't even know how to get into this without just being mean and angry about the idea of not taking ownership of your shit, of not taking ownership of your actions, your like reactions, the way you respond to things, the way you like own your stuff, own your feelings, own your power, own it. It's you. You can fail and you can fuck up, but like stop blaming other people. And specifically like for him in this case, stop blaming women. You're shitty.
Yeah.
Like in every instance that had anything to do with sex or love or whatever, it was always the woman's fault who's tangentially tied to this person.
But then at the Grammys, when it's like the second performance that he ruins for her, right?
Yes.
She starts to blame, like this is, for me, this was like one of the saddest parts is she started to blame herself for him ruining her moment. Like she was saying, is it something that I've done? You don't know how good you are. Is it me? What have I done wrong? And like trying to find out why he did this because clearly she caused it.
Yeah.
And that was just like another moment where like she's just like, she's so far gone that I don't feel like she can be redeemed. And at the end of the movie, she ends up, because like Jackson kills himself, right? And like, so of course, like everybody that thought he was an asshole before, which he was, is now saying like, oh, he was great and he was a good dude and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And like, so all of the negative and bad things and shitty things that he's done in his life are now fucking erased. Her final act, because I think the whole time she's the singer Esther Hoffman, she introduces herself to the audience before singing this ballad about her dead husband as Esther, insert his last name here. And yeah. I was like, cool. So now she's completely erased who she was before. And now she's just so far gone and so like taken aback by like what happened. And she blames herself and all this other stuff. And I was just like, great. That's how this ends.
Yeah.
Chill. I love that.
The idea of ownership manifests itself after his death, where she embraces the fact that like she's his in death, I'm his, and let's mourn together, which is like, yeah, death sucks and death is sad, but fuck this guy. This guy's an asshole. This guy was trash. He was abusive. He was manipulative. He could have talked about his feelings at any moment.
He could have.
He could have been honest. He could have talked about how he's feeling sad, or he's feeling jealous, or he's feeling uncomfortable. He could be vulnerable even. Oh my God,
and
men being vulnerable.
Anytime that like Esther tries to, because she asks a couple times like, hey, how are you feeling? Hey, what's up? He's like, you're cute. Or he's like, you talk a lot.
Yes.
Like, and I'm like, no, she's trying to get you to talk. She's trying to get you to say something.
So yeah, men are the worst. Generally, largely, men are the worst. This is a very good, clear example of some shitty guy who we're supposed to like, who's a piece of shit, and is like bad in all the wrong way, or like just bad. He's just a bad guy. He's a bad guy.
He's a bad
Billie
guy.
Eilish wrote a song about him. God damn it.
Everything about this movie was bad.
It sucked. It's not a good movie. It's not good. Also, editors, figure it out.
Oh my God.
Because that intro
atrocious.
Scene at the fucking concert was like 25 fucking minutes.
This movie was it was so long. And then like some of like the scenes where they're fucking, because there's lots of scenes about that, like it was so long.
Well, they're like fucking in the bath, and they're fucking on the bed, and they're fucking in the other room, and then they're like talking, and then they're back in the bath, and you're like,
they're in the bath.
Is this a softcore? Like, what are we doing?
There's candles on top of the beer cans. And I was also like looking at like that whole bath scene, and I was like, is that comfortable?
I know. It really, yeah.
Ugh.
I hated it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Jackson Maine, a famous alcoholic rock star struggling with hearing loss, stumbles into a local drag bar one night after his show. Allie, a frustrated songwriter working as a server, sings her ass off to some sick French song, and Jackson invites her out for another drink. Allie punches a cop, LOL, and sings a song in a supermarket parking lot. Jackson Maine has a nose fetish, and they had a great night.
The next morning, Jackson invites Allie to his concert and makes his personal driver follow her all fucking day until she says yes. She then quits her job and flies in a private jet to his concert with her BFF, sings on stage in front of hella people, and becomes an overnight success. A love story happens, and now they're married. As Allie rises to pop queen sensation, Jackson drives further into his addiction and self-sabotage. A bunch of shit happens and he goes to rehab, but ultimately is unable to get past his sense of failure and kills himself. Allie sings a song, The End.
Wow. I'm off the deep end. Watch as I dive in. Shit. I'll never leave the ground. Although I will say I absolutely love Shallow. I think it's a great song.
Oh, it's a great song. It actually
it hit.
It surpassed Michael Jackson's Thriller and became the second most award-winning song in music history with 24 awards, just behind Beyonce's Formation, which has 27 awards.
Wow.
That song is really fucking good.
It's a great song. It's fucking great. It's great.
And great. Also, Bradley Cooper can actually sing. He did like a lot of vocal training for this part, which is really cool because it shows like the last one, he's fucking terrible.
I love how much you hate Chris Christopherson.
Oh my God, I fucking hate him. He wasn't a singer. I don't know nothing about that motherfucker.
Chris Christopherson was like hella famous.
Cool.
Again, who cares?
He was not good.
Yeah, he was not good in that movie. But yeah, Bradley Cooper can sing.
Yeah. That was a delight.
That was a delight. I was also surprised. I liked his voice. I liked the songs, even like the Jackson Maine songs. They were solid.
Yeah, they were fine.
They were
As
cool.
somebody that like grew up with like classic rock and stuff. Yeah, I was like, cool. This is chill. Like I could listen to this.
Yeah. It was solid. So I will, off the top, say this movie was fantastic. The first 45 minutes of it were fantastic. I thought as a movie, the structure of her getting to that show, I mean, obviously there's some problematic shit that we'll get into, but her getting to the show where she flies in the private jet and then she performs, and then some of the post stuff after that, I was like, I'm interested in this story. I like this. I'm on board. This song. Great. Cool. It was after they were touring and then she meets the producer guy. As soon as that moment happened, I'm like, oh, this is a mess. I don't like it. I don't know what's happening anymore. I don't know where they're going. And then the Allie solo stuff with like the pop, and then it's like a conversation about like pop versus country and like what's valid. And he's like, I
mean, classic rock.
Classic,
like not country.
It's kind of country. A little bit.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Because I do think that opening scene is him performing at Stagecoach. Because it is obviously like a Coachella.
It is. They actually recorded all this at Coachella. It was actually Coachella that they did all this stuff at.
Yeah. So they had people who were there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I figured. But yeah, that's just my that's my take.
That's your hot ass take.
Off the top. I also love that there were drag queens in this. Willem and Shangela of RuPaul's Drag Race are fantastic. And they were in it, and they did such a great job. I love that Shangela even did a personal plug because she has, like, part of her catchphrase is she's a professional. Uh-huh. Like, I'm professional. She's a pro. I'm a professional pro. Like, that's her thing. And so they're in the back, and something's going on with one of the other girls, and she's just like, get it together, girl. This is a professional show. And I was just like, oh, because I think her and Willem wrote their own dialogue, or they
did. They weren't originally, they didn't really have a lot of lines or anything. And then they were just so funny and fun.
They were great.
And that Bradley Cooper, who also, I think he directed and starred in and did all he did everything for this movie.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, okay, you guys just do your own thing and we'll like work around it. But because like that was one of the best parts of the movie.
It was fun.
They were fucking
great.
cute. And I love how they were like celebrating a lot of the DIY in drag too. Like it's like, oh, this guitar, like you do it yourself. And she's like, hell yeah, I did. Like, you know.
Well, even though it was like a acoustic Gresh White Falcon, which is like expensive as fuck. I'm like, Queen, calm down.
Put like a bunch of like
shitty rhinestones.
And then
some
like painted like some rose on it and shit. I was like, love this.
Garbage.
Love this so much.
Yeah. I also like that she said when he's singing, he's like, oh, where do you want me to be or something? She's like, I don't care as long as you look at me while you do it.
Hell yeah.
I was like, oh my God, Willem, you're
sign my titties.
I know, sign my tits. Which like all of that, those bits were, it was fun. When I saw this for the first time, I was like, this is great. This is great.
Also, Allie's best friend, I forget his name.
Yes.
But he was from Hamilton in the original, the Lin-Manuel version of it, right? He was Hamilton's son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, that's where I know him from.
Good for him.
Yeah. He was great. I loved it.
He was great. That whole sequence
and
of
I like that they kept him in the movie throughout it. Even if he wasn't like a main part or anything, you still see like she's nervous in the bathtub about like her new look and stuff. And he's like, no, you look great.
You look great.
Like, and he's the person that is brought in. He's still there, even if he's not a part of the narrative.
They're friends, and they remain friends throughout the entirety of her fame. And like even in the last moment, like after Jackson kills himself, he's the first person there the next day. And he's just like, do you want me to stay? I can stay. I can be here. Like, I'm here for you. This is important, and I know it, and I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, the drag queens, too. Like, she's getting ready to, like,
go
and
off
she
and, like,
do
them?
her... Yeah, and they're, like, FaceTiming in the bathtub and, like, all this other stuff. And it was just, like, so cute. And I love the celebration of the community.
Yeah.
And, like, they did a really good job with that, I think.
They did. And I liked Gaga's character. She just felt very genuine. I think there was a lot less of that, although it was still very much there, that gross garbage, like, predatory shit. Apart from the stalking and all of that stuff, it was never... I feel like if there are winces of it, like when they have those arguments about how he's just like, you look fucking ugly, she's like, what did you just say? What did you just say to me? Like, instead of, whereas Streisand would just kind of ignore it and then move on and wouldn't really like comment on it or like come back with like a funny quip. She's just like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Say it again. Let's talk about it. And it's just like combating these small moments of like him being a fucking asshole.
Yeah, well, he was significantly less of an asshole in
yes.
this one.
Oh,
like that
100%.
was his only like. So that is one thing that I liked is that his character was not founded on like treating women like garbage and like treating his fans like garbage and everything. Like he had like a genuine love of what he did and for the people around him and stuff like that. He just, instead of like drugs being his main thing, it was his hearing. But then, like, also his alcoholism, too.
Yeah.
And, like, at one point, I did not give a fuck about, like, I was like, cool, you're losing your hearing. Wear your fucking in-ears. Like, wear whatever. Like, I have no sympathy for you.
Your brother's literally like, you're on stage, put these on. And he's like, no. And he's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Like,
you're being foolish.
He is, like, you know, his form of self-sabotage in this film was more subtle.
Yeah.
Because that was absolutely self-induced.
Oh, 100%. It was. And I think this movie had way more to say about the idea of sort of inherited trauma from like being young and like these two brothers now. One is sort of like kind of residually idolizing his dad, whereas the other's like, our dad fucking sucked. Like, please acknowledge it. Our dad was trash. He didn't treat us well. We had to look out for each other, and that's that. I'm glad he's gone. Like, he was not a good guy. So this idea of compartmentalizing that trauma that existed at such an early age, but confronting that in a way where it's like music is an outlet, but also self-medicating as a means of dealing with that kind of trauma and dealing with that, what that trauma then will oftentimes spin into depressive episodes and internal struggle, right?
But then was it actually dealing with it? Because, like, I mean, it really takes him going to rehab to realize that he didn't idolize his dad. He actually idolized his brother.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was another form of escapism.
Yes.
And I feel like they did a much better job this time of showing that, like, that alcohol was an escape for him.
Yeah.
And that this was an escape and, you know, stuff like that. So. Yeah,
it was a conversation, whereas the last one didn't have the conversation. They showed you the picture of it. They didn't talk about the picture, you know? And so that's, I appreciated that in this. And it just made me more invested in the story. Generally, I was more willing to be like, oh, I want to see the nuance of this character because, yeah, this character is kind of shitty sometimes, but is also like kind of okay and like going through his own stuff. And I want to know about this person. I want to know what's going on with them, right? Mm-hmm. I'm interested. I'm involved.
Yeah. I'll fuck with this.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the other one was just like, none of these people suck.
The other one was just like, I don't give a shit about anybody. And yeah, you're right. Like, I think a lot of it too was the way that the characters were framed and the way that they opened the conversation. And like, even if they didn't want to go into like an idea fully yet, they would give you little snippets of it, right? Like breadcrumbs to like string you along. Or like, there was always a part of the movie where you were engrossed in. Like, and there was like a clear idea and a clear motive behind the scene and behind the conversation and behind whatever is going on. Yeah. So I did like that. I liked that there was more people of color, even if they weren't main roles, you know?
Yeah.
They still at least existed in this you know?
In a way that they didn't exist in the last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By and large, I liked this film better, but I still didn't really like it. And I still think it's garbage.
Well, you brought something up earlier that I didn't recognize, is that there are no women in this movie. Gaga's the like only one to some extent. Like, really, all of the conversations are with her and another man or other men. Like, her mother's not there. It's her dad and all of her dad's friends who are all male. Bradley Cooper, who's a man. These drag queens who are biologically men. Like, not to, again, gender's a construct, obviously. And I like that they're playing with gender, and I like that it was like queer by including drag queens. But in that gay bar, we're seeing largely male bodies. Mm-hmm. The producer, a man. Almost everybody she interacts with is a man. Her best friend, a guy.
Her best friend.
Like,
everybody. Her dad's friends, the driver, this. Like, they could have made... That driver could have been a woman.
Yeah.
You know, like, what characters could we have swapped out? Like, and it would have been fine, you know? And, like, I think part of the reason they had her surrounded by so many men was to build tension, because who is allowed to protect her and who has ownership over her is what it felt like. So her dad, right?
Is it her dad, her friend, or her love, or her husband,
or
right?
her manager,
or her manager?
Because her manager, like, you could argue that the reason that Jackson finally kills himself is because her manager goes up and is like, look, we're not friends and you're fucking bad for her.
Yeah.
And so he, like, instead of offering some sort of like constructive criticism or something like that, he intimidates him and says, you're bad for her, you're holding her back, and you're making her look like a fucking joke. So they talk about how he struggled with suicide previously.
Yeah.
Or an attempted suicide, I should say. So it wasn't out of the blue what he did, right? And how his narrative ended. But I would have liked to see him, rather than just, you know, dying by suicide, I would have liked to see him take that and be like, okay, I love her. I'm going to help her fix this, you know, and using that as motivation to be better rather than to remove himself from the equation.
Exactly. And I know we're trying to retell the same story, and in these other stories this happens, but that doesn't have to be the case.
But by doing that, you make the story about the man.
Exactly. You make the story back about him where he's just like, it's my story, whatever. And then also, I just don't like this idea that, like, it low-key romanticizes suicide. Mm-hmm. And I hated it. I hated that so much, where it's like, well, I've tried and I can't try anymore. Because it's like, yeah, I understand that, like, depression is a real, like, fuck. And like, these, it's all there. But why are we showing this? Why are we like, talk to her, be vulnerable, and be like, just there. That didn't have to be the ending, and I don't like that was the ending. Even though we're retelling that story where that happens, like, we still don't have to do that.
They still didn't talk. You know, for this great relationship that they're supposed to, or this like super couple or whatever. Like, she cancels her European tour and just tells him like, oh, they decided that I'm going to do this. Like, they're both lying to each other all the time about everything. Yeah. And like still trying to be like, oh, but we're in love. And it's like, to me, neither of these films felt like love. It felt like lust. This felt like puppy love. Yeah. And it's supposed to be framed as like that sort of romantic love that we were talking about, like that ideal or whatever, you know?
Well, also, because like he's butted up against this idea that he's failed not only himself, but everyone around him, especially after the conversation that he has with her producer, where he's like, you're an embarrassment. And when the day finally comes where she decides to leave you, I'm waiting for that because it's coming. And
again, that goes back to who gets ownership of her.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then at that same token, like, to me, it felt like he did what he did. Like, he killed himself because of her. Because he was being a martyr at that. And that's how his death was treated. And that's how, like, you know, it wasn't a platform to talk about mental health or anything. It was like, cool, this is it.
Yeah. I've lost my chance. I failed. So I'm just going to go now.
That feels gross. Like,
it does feel gross.
Like, I want more, like, transformative narratives where it's like, cool, I have this choice. Like, I feel like if you wanted to still go down that road, you could, like, have shown him contemplating it. And then him making the active decision to be better and to go back to rehab or to actually open up and talk to his wife about what he's struggling with and how he's doing and stuff like that, and use the resources that he has around him. And you could have shown that, because that's not easy at all.
No.
But like,
you can frame it differently and you can have a different narrative happen. Again, like, just by doing that, it's kind of like this quote unquote hero's journey where this is the ultimate end. No.
It's like a noble act.
And it's not noble.
Framed.
Yeah. It's so far from it. So fucking stop. Like, change. Just, it didn't need to be there. And I was so mad that that's what happened. And that was the end of the story. Especially for somebody who's so obviously going through a lot and is dealing with a lot of mental illness, to then quote unquote fail her. But that failure is coming from somebody who doesn't know how to communicate with his partner. And the times that he's trying to tell her, like, keep your honest voice, it's coming from a place of jealousy where he's like mad that she's gaining success and that she's not doing country classic rock music. Mm-hmm. And this goes into that whole conversation about the pitting of the dichotomy of like, it's either this or that, and that's it. And if you're not this, you're that, and that's a problem for me. Baby shit. That's bullshit. No. So the fact that like his conversations with her, trying to steer her back into the direction
trying
that
to be real and get her back to
real, whatever real is, but real to him, like, so your genre is real? Is that the conversation? Like, he thinks the facade of pop music is frivolous and empty, and that emotional, palpable creativity is directly tied to the music that he plays because he can't think outside of his own perspective. And like, well, I make emotional music. I make music that means something. That doesn't mean anything because I don't like it. And you're like, you're foolish. You're a child. You're a baby. This is so simple and so misguided. And those conversations he has with her, I'm just like, what? No, like,
it was him trying to control her again.
It was him trying to control her. Exactly. And it's so silly. And I hated that, like, again, that second half of the movie, that's the large conversation about like him trying to be a martyr. And he's like our quote unquote hero. He's struggling. The only times he talks to his wife are when he's trying to control her, when he's trying to tell her that she's doing the wrong thing, which stems directly from the fact that she's gaining success and he's bummed about it and bummed that it's not success that he helped create, it's success that she created.
Right. And that's another thing. So again, the men in the film are trying to like, have control over her, but they're all pushing her in one way or another. Yeah. Her dad is pushing her out the fucking door, right? To go marry a rich man or whatever, right? Yeah. Then Jackson pushes her to date him and pushes her to the concert, pushes her to the stage, pushes her to record, pushes her to like to be a songwriter, right? Mm-hmm. And then the manager comes in for that male tension, right? And he pushes her to like fulfill her wildest dreams and all this potential and pushes her out of the shadow of Jackson, but also pushes her into his idea of what she should be. And so then by Jackson committing suicide, by dying by suicide, he pushes her past the embarrassment of being married to him. So even in that final act of his, I feel like that was him trying to push her into a direction that she needs to go. Yeah. And so everybody is pushing her to all of these different places and locations. And she just like, she doesn't have a lot of ownership in it. And
the only ownership she really had was when she was at her job and she was like, fuck you, boss. And he's like, fuck you. And she's like, okay, I quit.
Yeah.
That's the only time she's like, cool, great. I'm taking myself out of a bad situation. Bye. But also under the guise of understanding that a car is waiting for her outside to take her to this concert.
Right.
So was it really, because that is influencing the decision 100% as well, right?
Oh, 8,000%.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. It's men just pushing her to do all these things. And then also the male tension between the producer and Bradley Cooper, but then also the tension between Bradley Cooper and her dad in that moment when he pisses his pants on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Halsey was the one giving the award. And I was like, I forgot Halsey was in this. I love that. I was like, oh, what? That's sick. When they're on stage, he pisses his pants and it's like super embarrassing, is a mess. That night afterwards, her dad's like almost beating him up, like carrying him into the house and just like, that's my daughter, you fucking asshole. Like, you're ruining her life and blah, blah, blah. And like, so now butting up against her dad having ownership of her and her image, Bradley Cooper, who's trying to control her image in the same way, where like she's going this other direction. He's like, no, that's not who you are. That's not truth. That's not how I see you, and how I see you is the only truth. And then the other guy, the producer, who's seeing her this other way. Like, again, it's exactly what you're saying.
Everybody's telling her what she needs to be.
Yeah.
And they're not letting her decide what she wants to be.
And the only thing that she's decided that she wants to be is a song, and it's the best song of the fucking movie. The song that she wrote. Well, actually, no. Never mind. I'm gonna take that back. She didn't orchestrate that. She wrote those little bits, and then he finished the song for her.
Oh, yeah.
Which is... let Jackson Wayne. What is his name? I'm thinking
it's Jackson Maine. So you're combining the two, and it's super cute.
Jackson Maine needs to calm down. Like, that's her song. I know you're trying to be romantic, but like, that's just fucking. Ask her how she feels. Ask her if you can use it. Just like talk. Like, use your words. Use your words. You foolish.
But this
man.
is how he sleeps. This is part of the unrealistic romance that I was talking about.
It's unrealistic romance, and it's also this like
so creepy that he sent a car to literally to stalk her until she decided that she was going to come to the show.
Yeah,
that was fucking creepy, and I hated that creepy. So much.
Mm-hmm. That is that kind of low key. Like, I want you, so I'm going to have you. No matter how you feel, you're going to be mine, and it's going to happen. So it's like Dracula predatory behavior. You know what I mean? He's like in his castle. He's like, one day, blah, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying right now. But yes.
I wanted to talk about how in both of these films, the woman is off-put by the man who's being so forward until she realizes that he's famous and witnesses his fame. And his wealth and his power and what that can do. Like, either she goes to a concert and she's there watching him, or she gets in a private jet, or she does this. But like, you know, at first it's like, if they were not famous, or if they did not have that type of wealth, like, fuck off. They don't give a shit, right? Like,
yes.
You want to come over to my house for pizza in the morning? Fuck off. Get out of here, right? You want me to quit my job so that way I can go watch your fucking band play?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so. Like, Barbara Streisand in the first one was like, hey, you need to shut the fuck up because this is my show, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, he's a famous guy, right?
Yeah.
Because she didn't know that. And then in this one, I thought it was really creepy when Jackson went backstage and he was like, it felt like he was exoticizing her a little bit because he's like, can I take off your eyebrow?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's paint. It didn't seem like anything other than just like extreme fascination with like, wow, this is weird and different, you know?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I thought that was really creepy. And she didn't know who this guy was. Like, you know, everybody else is freaking out, but she's like, who the fuck is this guy, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he sings on stage that she's like, oh, okay, I'll give him a shot. But like, you could tell that she's kind of like, she's super hesitant. And she's like, I didn't feel like she was on board.
Well, she does. There are moments when he is backstage and she's like, I can't believe Jackson Maine is here. Like, she's not like super, I'm on board with this. She's a little off put, but she's still kind of like, you're Jackson Maine. Like, she knows who he is. I think at the moment that she lays down on the bar, I think that's when she's like, oh, fuck, I know this person. Because then when he comes backstage, it's almost an immediate thing. Like, she knows, and also all the girls know that he's famous, and they're all kind of, that's when Willem's like, sign my tits, please. And like, Shangela's doing her thing and like, let the man talk. He's only interested in Gaga, and Gaga's like, I can't believe you're talking to me. Because I do think that she says, I can't believe I'm talking to Jackson Maine, because then she says it again at the bar, I think.
But
that,
still,
like,
would you let some dude that's trying to like hit on you, like, come up and be like, let me take off your eyebrow?
If he wants to give me thousands of dollars, yes.
Right. Right.
No,
absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
But it's because he has wealth and fame that they're willing to go on with this weird fucking behavior.
Yeah. Oh, no. It is that bizarre behavior of famous people. Like, you can kind of just do whatever you want. The idea that, like, no matter what you do, people are fine with it because you're famous. Like, it's accepted that you can be an asshole or be dismissive or be entitled or be all of the above because people know who you are.
Right.
You know, which is gross and trash. I don't like that. So she's going to the bar and like, I can't believe I'm having a drink with Jackson Maine. I can't believe I'm here. But then the next day she's at home with her dad, and her dad's like, what did he say? I can't believe this. And she's like, I don't look at celebrities like you do, Dad. I don't idolize them like you
Bullshit.
do. And you're like, no, Queen, you were just talking to him about how you can't believe he's talking to you and how you can't believe he's here. Like, garbage.
Man.
I want to talk about the fight that they have where he's like trying to express to her some vulnerability. I think I wrote down verbatim. When they're looking at the billboard. He's like, if you don't dig deep in your fucking soul, you don't have legs. If you don't tell the truth out there, you're fucked. And so he's kind of saying it to her as a means of saying he feels like she's being fake with this new persona. If you don't tell the truth, it's like, what is true? Like, that's so relative and so subjective. Like, you can just say you don't like pop music. Stop it. Like, stop. You can just say you're mad that she's getting successful and you have nothing to do with it. You can say that. You can be open because your feelings, sure, they're valid. Feel them. But be honest about what that feeling is. Don't try to spin it as some kind of conjecture to prove this point about honesty and truth in music because you don't have the capacity to see anything outside of the scope of genre or the scope of personal self-fulfillment that you have and the weird tie to that creative venture that you make for yourself in your own head. No. It's one of these things where he's pinning that again on her. It's her fault. It's her fault that she's getting this success and he doesn't like where she's going. So you better tell the truth out there. Otherwise you're going to fail. And you know what the truth is? I know what it is. It's my stuff. It's what I'm doing. It's what you were doing. And if you're doing something else, that's fake and you're going to fail.
Well, and it's
Fuck
like,
off,
he's just so
buddy.
mad at himself and whatever's happening that he's like, he then starts taking out his not even just jealousy, but like his own personal like feelings that he was feeling even before her on her. He starts punching down at her. And like the big fight that they had in the bathtub was pretty much like him saying, I don't know why you were nominated for a Grammy. Like, I'm trying to figure out why you were nominated and I failed you. You're embarrassing.
I know.
He's calling it a cry for attention, which is like all of this stuff is so gross because this is exactly what men say about women that are confident and like, you know, show a little skin because they want to for them or whatever, you know, anytime that we claim something for ourselves, that's on like, oh, you're just doing it for attention. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that as like a female artist and I'm just like, fuck you.
It's 100%
fuck
true.
You.
And
fuck
it's power.
you.
It's power the men can't control.
Yeah. And then he calls her, he says that his dad is more talented than his wife. And then he says that she's ugly. And when he knows that that's going to strike a nerve, like he's just trying to get a reaction, right? And then like later on, his way of saying sorry was, I might have said some things. He never actually says sorry until he goes to rehab.
Yep.
You know, which at least he says sorry. However, this whole thing is fucked. And this is like going back to what you were saying about like the real music or about this old aging white man's view of what the world and music and all of these things should be.
Yeah.
This whole film is feel bad for old people because they're losing their hearing and they have lessons to teach you or whatever. Like it frames him and his opinion as the right way and the right thing. And he gets validated in that. And it's never questioned.
It's never questioned. And even in that conversation, when he's arguing with her, he says, you're ugly and I know that you're not. You're being ugly and I know that you're not. Ugh. What kind of emotional manipulative abuse shit is that? You're being ugly right now and I know you're not ugly. So you need to act how I want you to act. You fucking asshole! Like
nobody else thinks you're pretty, but I know that you're pretty.
I know that you're pretty, and you need to show people that.
Sounds like one of my high school boyfriends.
I do. I will say I do love her in the fight, though. Her responses to it. She says, "You're my boyfriend," and he's like, "Really, boyfriend? You have another boyfriend?" She's like, "No, you're my boyfriend. I mean, you're my husband." And he's like, "So I'm just your boyfriend now?" She's like, "Yeah, you're my boyfriend if you don't treat me like your wife."
Yeah, I did like that line.
And then he's like, "I don't even know what that means," and she's like, "It means you're messy and you need to clean it up." It means clean your shit up. You're messy. And I was like, "Yeah, yes to that. I like it."
Go away.
He's the worst, and I just. It's the pushing, it's the ownership, it's the prodding, it's the manipulation that's just so toxic and gross. And that whole second half of the movie with all of this stuff where this person who's so struggling in so many ways, like he still sucks. Like, he's still a misogynist piece of shit who wants to control and own her image, own her sexuality, own her body, own her power, own her personality. He wants to own every facet of her.
He wants her talent more than anything.
He wants her talent.
And that's really, in both of these films, he falls in love, or he's infatuated, I'll say.
Yeah.
With her talent. And in the first one, it's because he doesn't have any talent of his own.
Yes.
But like, yeah.
You hear that, Chris? You hear that shit?
You hear that? At me. I'm never on Twitter. I won't see your response.
I won't see your tweet.
It's also interesting how the different responses between the last film and this one on like how they deal with things.
Yeah.
So like the first one, any sort of conflict was dealt with like violence. And in this one, his way of dealing with the first fight, right, when he gets blackout drunk after SNL or whatever, and then...
Which was fun.
Which was great. Like, you know,
Love
Dave Chappelle finds him in the bushes, like you do, right?
Yeah.
And she comes to get him, and she's like, I'm not going to get you again. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to clean up your mess again. And his way of saying sorry was making a ring out of a guitar string and being like, hey, will you marry me? And then they get married that same day.
The same day.
And they're only surrounded by mostly people they don't know, I'm assuming.
Well,
and they're all people of color.
Yeah.
So
I know that. So that was, I did like Dave Chappelle, like just the fact that
I like Dave Chappelle's character,
his character and his family.
Yeah, that
and like
was
their
great.
daughter, his wife, like they were great, and I like that they were part of the story. I don't know, that scene was cool. I liked the scene a lot, but that act of proposing to her was such a like.
Rather than say sorry, he's going to put a ring on it, and then she will have to clean it up again because she's his wife.
Yeah, he's the worst. He has
He
no. Yeah.
I also wanted to point out like how it was really tropey to make Dave Chappelle's character, who's a person of color, the voice of wisdom in this. That's a trope that too often gets used.
Yes.
But I liked that his character was like about like he found his own success. And he didn't necessarily, it did for him, like he went on tour and he did his thing and that's cool, but he loves his family and this is where he's at. And he still plays music, but he plays for himself now.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to prove to anybody else that he's worth a damn.
Yeah.
But like his character was also showing how far Jackson has gone because like, he's like, it's been forever since I've seen you. Like he's not like keeping up with his friends in the same way that Allie's keeping up with hers.
Like Gaga.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Gaga.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, like who is fucking Jackson Maine to tell Allie how to do her music and how to be a person and how to exist in the world when he's never been loyal to any, like he fucked his relationship with his brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He fucked his relationship with literally like everybody that he comes into contact with.
All his friends. Yeah.
You know, and then leaves them by the wayside. It's just like, I can't.
Yeah.
This dude.
It's awful. It's interesting that you bring up that as a trope, the sort of the wise black character as the voice of reason. Again, it's the consumption of propifying a character. And like, this is a low key but sort of high key version of that. The exoticizing wisdom of other cultures and sort of the mysticism that comes with it. Like, you're different, so you have different knowledge. You look different than I do, so you must have some insight. You must have something to say. It's that othering of anybody who's not a Western white person. Like, yeah.
Well, and then like also looking back now retrospectively, we've talked about all of these ranges of emotions with Jackson for sure, right? What are Allie's ranges of emotions? She's the one that always has to be so much stronger than everybody else. She has to deal with Jackson. And like at a certain point, she's just like, oh, he does this all the time when he's like super drunk and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And she like gets accustomed to like that behavior. And she has to be strong enough to like take on being a pop star herself and dealing with her alcoholic husband and her overbearing dad and this and that. And I was just like, damn, like, you don't see her break. Like, you see her get mad when, you know, he calls her ugly, but you never see her break until he, like, dies.
Yeah.
Right?
And then she has that hallway scene where she, like, smashes, which is understandable. Like, that tracks 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, like, you know, another example of, like, when women have to do all of the emotional labor for you and every other person in your fucking life, you know, which for her, it's all men, right?
Yep.
Of course. But, like, just trying to think of, like, how much depth there was to her. The more I think about the character of Allie, the more she was kind of a prop. This is supposed to be her story, but it's really about Jackson, and it's about all of these men getting her to where they want her to be. And and she's there for them. And so it's weird, like, because again, all of the stars wanted to be in this and were considered for this and everything, right? And, like, Gaga herself had even said that she connected so much with Allie that, like, as soon as they were done filming, she had to dye her hair back, and she, like, because she got into character. Like, she didn't wear makeup for, like, a couple months before. So, like, through most of the film, like, she didn't wear makeup. It was just a lip gloss or whatever. But, like, she said that she identified so fucking much with that character, and, like, the character of the dad was written to be kind of like her dad, you know. So when she talks to him about carrying the piano up the stairs and stuff like that, that's her talking to her dad, and that's great. But then, like, it's also like that character just felt so one-dimensional because she wanted something, and then cool, she's, like, escalating and she kind of falls in love, but the movie was all about the emotional turmoil of Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Jackson-centric story. Like you said, it was a movie that was touted as being a story about her and sort of written to appear like it's a story written about her and for her, but it's not. It's about him and about his choices. And again, even in the end when he kills himself, it's a choice for her. Like, it's his choice. It has to do everything with her, and even her reaction, her response post-mortem, it has everything to do with him. It's all centered around him. Like, he's now dead. Now she's grieving him, and now she's performing for him. Now she has his name. It's all for him. It was always for him.
Yeah, and I think I might have gotten it wrong. I think in the first one, I don't know, maybe she does it in both, but in this one for sure, Allie takes his last name at the very end.
Yeah, it's just Allie, and then at the end she's like, I'm Allie Maine.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Wayne. Allie Wayne. Jackson Wayne. Why you keep saying Jackson Wayne? I don't know.
But yeah, so, like, that's her final act is she sees that. And, like, I got super teary, even though, like, I hated the ending and I hated what happened. Like, her singing that, like, just, I broke down.
So I will say, yeah, it was her singing it, and then right there at the end, cutting to him on the piano. The moment that, like, she's like, what does this song sound like? And he's like, oh, let me play it for you. But then they cut away from it. And then after his death, she's singing the song that he wrote, and then they cut to what we didn't see, which was him playing that exact song on the piano for her.
That was really sweet.
Yeah, it got me. The first time I saw this, I wept.
Yeah.
100%. It was, like, so sad. So it's not to say that this movie doesn't have, like, it has levels, but ultimately was messy.
Yeah.
You know, but.
It's a classic Hollywood story that was updated for modern times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back. This is the end segment where we talk about the end stuff.
This is where we talk about our feelings about the movies.
Woo-hoo! I was just saying, though, how wild would it have been if we had to watch all four? This is 2.
I don't know if I could have handled it.
It would have been too much.
I mean, nothing could probably be as bad as the 1976 version.
True. Because I am very interested in seeing Judy Garland.
Yeah, I am too.
As this character. I do want to see it, and I probably will watch it. I don't know who's in the first one, because I'm just uncultured.
I didn't get that
far. Yeah. I'm just some uncultured American.
There was 3, and then you told me there was 4, and it fucking blew my mind.
Well, that's when we were doing it, and I saw it on there, and I was like, wait, hold on. And then I looked it up, and it was like, no, there's original, then Judy Garland, then Ben. And I was like, oh, shit,
Hollywood
we can't do all 4.
has a problem with this fucking movie.
Oh, yeah, they love this story. They love to see it. They love to see themselves in it. They want to be it. They want to relish it. Get out of Hollywood. I know, right?
All right,
Give us all your money. Okay.
Star is Born.
Star is Born.
1976.
76.
Who was it for?
It was for self-congratulatory misogynists? Who do you think it was for?
I think it was for, yes, them, Hollywood, Barbara Streisand, for sure. I guess Chris and Barbara were on set during like the new filming of A Star Is Born just to like check it out and watch because like for some reason everybody has like a connection to these characters. Again, representation, all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So super weird.
Yeah.
But cool, I
wonder
guess.
what they had to say.
I don't really care because they're
Right.
after what they did with the story, I'm so off. But anyways, yeah, that's who I think it was for. It was for Barbara Streisand.
Yeah. Yeah, that tracks.
Oh, man. Did you like it?
I didn't.
I hated this movie.
It wasn't
I will
good.
never, ever, ever watch this fucking piece of trash again.
It really isn't a necessary watch. If you're following along to this podcast and you did watch it, we're
I'm
very sorry. But
we owe you an apology.
yeah, we're sorry you had to watch this. It's not imperative to the cinema canon of the existence of films. It is not. It's not important. So it's that. Yeah.
Oh, man. What about the new one? Is it new and interesting or the same, progressive, regressive, and has the story evolved with today's ideas?
You know what? I'm going to say, I think yes to all of those. So I do think it was progressive in its storytelling about mental illness, about addiction.
Because he actually goes to rehab. Thank you.
Yeah, because he goes to rehab, but he also like it's way more of a conversation. Other characters are like acknowledging it, and she's talking to him about it to some degree, right? Like it's a part of the thing. It's part of the narrative. So I think it was progressive in that sense. I think it held up to or like was reformatted with today's ideals, with like the whole pop music aspect. I think that was just. It's the same story, right? Like she's doing this, he's getting jealous. It's like different music, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Do you think it was?
I think the last film was just so absolutely atrocious that anything compared to this would be progressive.
Ooh.
Or anything compared to the last one would be progressive.
Anything compared to the 76 version.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because I can't get over that it was just men pushing her and wanting her to be whatever they wanted her to be.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to dye your hair. So because you need to dye your hair. Why? Because you have to.
And then later on, he tells Jackson Wayne that it was her idea.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, ew, these guys are gross.
It's very gross.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it could be regressive. I mean, it could be, but then that would be an entire, like a whole fucking episode just about that one. But I think it evolved with today's ideals, like you said, like, you know, pop star singing on SNL, chill, you know, like they shot it at Coachella, all the stuff, whatever. Yeah, sure, that tracks. But it was new and interesting in certain ways. Like the first 45 minutes, I love that they were in a gay bar. I love that it was a drag show. I love that, you know, that stuff. But then after that, it just was boring and tired.
Yep. Yeah, truly. I love the first 45 minutes. I will rewatch it. And I loved her going on stage singing Shallow. That song rips. And then her
really
like
does.
making the choice to walk out there and then just like doing it and then like
and owning
being
it.
nervous and then like opening up to performing and just like killing it. I was like, this is great. This is a great movie. But again, it's like the first 45 minutes. I was like, yeah. And then everything else is like, what? So there's that.
Who is this movie for?
The gays.
Yeah.
Do I say that every time, every episode? I don't know. But like I say that so often. Oh, God.
Only the good ones. That's
Only the good ones, yeah. When it's a good movie, it's for the gays. God, that's so gross. But I do think that this movie, with its inclusion of Willem and Shangela and the gay bar and Gaga as the lead, I do think it was for the gays. And even her pop songs, like one of her pop songs is a bop. Not the with an ass like that. Not that song. No. The other one, it's about her hair, body, face. That's a great song. It's silly as fuck, but in the same way that a lot of like really good fun pop songs are silly.
Oh, for sure.
It still hits. I would buy it. I would buy that single. I get it. I understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think it was for?
I absolutely think that it was for the gays too. And I love that.
Hell yeah.
I also think that it was for people that want to see themselves, you know, like they want to be the person that's discovered at a gas station and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah. It's for supermarket parking lot singers.
Yeah. And the first 45 minutes is for the gays. The last part of the movie is for old people. It's for it's for people that are like at the midlife crisis point to where they can like turn it around and have a fucking great rest of their life, or they can just be super regressive. They have a choice.
It's for existential crises havers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, the first 45 minutes were great. Did you like it?
I don't think overall I liked the film.
Okay.
Because that ending just really pissed me off really fucking bad.
Same.
And I don't think that I can get over that.
That fully tracks. It's a whole, it's a narrative, it's a film, so I
wanted more women in the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted Allie to fucking make her own decisions and not just be like somebody that was pushed around and told what to be and what to do.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. You bringing that up, the fact that she's like the only woman in this film, kind of.
The last one too.
I was like, damn. Yeah, even still, yeah.
In this 2018 one, they didn't even talk about the moms at all. Like, they talk about Jackson's dad. They talk about Allie's dad. Allie's dad's in there, but they don't talk about their mothers.
Yeah.
They don't talk about any other woman or anything. Like, this is a movie for men.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, no. The gays, it still works in that.
It does.
Because oftentimes gay is only used for male-bodied people. God, sometimes it's a mess. Yeah, gays can be messy and problematic and all of that.
Go listen to Bad Gays if you haven't already.
Oh my God. Seriously. It's such a, did you listen to it? Have you listened to it?
I've listened to a couple episodes.
Oh my God. It's so good. There's
so
a podcast called the Bad Gays Podcast. Go just look it up. It's great. This was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. We love you. We hope you like us, love us, gotta have us.
All of it
If
above.
you do, please rate our show and review us. It helps us get more listeners and feeds our egos a little bit. You can send us your recommendations for episodes or questions or follow-ups or I don't know, whatever. Just say hello.
Yeah. Text us, queen.
Ooh. I'm not giving you my number.
I'm not giving mine out either. JKLOL.
But you can write to us at nostalgiapodcast@gmail.com, or we're on all of the social medias either as Nostalgia Podcast or nostalgia.pod.
Yes.
So you can find us there. We would like to thank David Tricero for providing technical support, Danny Barkley for editing our podcast, and is there anything else? Did I leave anything else out?
No, I think that's it. Was there anything else?
I don't think so.
Except thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you,
Thank
Eric.
you, Jess. This is always a pleasure. I love this.
This is great.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week. We don't know what we're doing yet.
But we'll know by
have some fun
then.
stuff. Bye.
We'll leave clues. Bye.